Hello and welcome. The title of the message today is The Water of Life. But let's begin by affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. I invite you now just to take a deep breath, gently but fully filling your lungs, and exhaling, relaxing into this moment. We open ourselves to Spirit, the Comforter, our teacher. This teacher is always with us, and so it is. Amen. So the water of life. I would like to share with you a passage from the very first book of the Bible in the very first chapter. This is the book of Genesis. And I'll be reading from the Lamsa translation. So Genesis chapter 1 and verse 2. This is the book of beginnings, and the verse goes, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water." The earth was formless and void. Darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the water. I picture a living water, a moving water, the water of life. There were ripples, there were waves on this water moving. The Spirit was moving on the face. Spirit. Something that we can't see directly. We can't perceive with any of our senses. But we can see it as this ripple on the water of the deep. It is by the manifestations of Spirit that we notice Spirit. We notice it most intimately in ourselves. This is where we can notice Spirit in our own heart. The water of life. We get a story that's told about Jesus in the Gospel according to John in chapter 4. And I'd like to read that story for you now and then make some comments about it. Remember the water of life, and the Spirit moved over the face of this water. So Jesus had to go through Samaritan territory. This is the Gospel according to John, chapter 4, and I'm going to start at verse 4. Jesus had to go through Samaritan territory. When he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the field where Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there, and Jesus was tired by the fatigue of the journey, and sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour, so it was high noon. The sun was shining directly upon them. And there came a woman from Samaria to draw water. And Jesus said to her, "Give me water to drink." His disciples had entered into the city to buy food for themselves. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it you are a Jew, and yet you ask me for a drink, who am a Samaritan woman?" For Jews have no social intercourse with Samaritans. I would like to remind you that Samaria was this area between the Galilee and Judea, where people lived who were formerly Jews. In other words, they were formerly Hebrews, before the major portion of the population was transplanted to Babylon, when these two areas were conquered. The Samaritans come from the people who were left behind, and they're known to be a mixed race because they bred together, they intermarried with non-Hebrew people. And so they were seen as being lesser by the Jews, by the Hebrew people who came back from Babylon. So we have this woman of Samaria, and Jesus has asked her for water. And she says, how can you, a Jew, ask me, a woman and a Samaritan, to give you water? Because there's purity laws at work here. And this is what Jesus says to her in verse 10. Jesus answered, saying to her, if you only knew the gift of God, and who is the man who said to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. So Jesus is talking about something, this gift of God. And the woman doesn't quite get it here, because in verse 11 she says, the woman said to him, my Lord, you have no leather bucket and no deep well. Where do you get the living water? What? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well, and he himself drank from it, and his sons and his sheep? And Jesus answered, saying to her, everyone who drinks of this water will thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water which I give them will never thirst. But the same water which I give them shall become in them a well of water, springing up to life everlasting. The woman said to him, my Lord, give me this water, so that I may not thirst again, and need not come and draw from here. She is coming from a perspective of the five senses, of this material world. She sees that Jesus has no well and no bucket to draw from the well. She is answering what is a spiritual question with material-oriented answers. She has failed thus far in the story to see the spiritual side, the inner teaching that Jesus is giving to her. But the story changes if we read on. Jesus said to her, go and call your husband and come here. She said to him, I have no husband. And Jesus said to her, you said well, I have no husband. For you have had 5 husbands, and the one you now have is not your husband. What you said is true. Then the woman said to him, my Lord, I see you are a prophet. And now it is dawning on her that this person before her is not speaking about these material items. He is speaking from a different perspective, because he was able to reveal things to her that he should not have known if only he was coming from material knowledge. Our forefathers worshipped on this mountain, and you say the place where men must worship is in Jerusalem, you being Jews. And Jesus said to her, woman, believe me, the time is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will they worship the Father. You worship what you do not know, but we worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. But the time is coming, and it is here, when the true worshipers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for the Father who also desires worshipers such as these. Worship in spirit and in truth. We won't have to go to this mountain or to that temple. We will worship in spirit and in truth. This living water will come like a fountain from within us. And indeed, this water is already in us. It is only that our material consciousness, our consciousness of separation, our consciousness of ourself as being different from God, has cut off the flow. And Jesus is teaching us this gift of God. This gift of God. And what is this gift? This gift is the living water, the water of life that is available to us. And all we need do is to align ourself in harmony, where our napsha self, our self with a small s, is in a position where our self with a capital S is become the active force in our life. And our self with a small s has become the passive force. Because you see, from the time we began our life as a little child, we have been feeding and cultivating this self with a lowercase f so that we can live in the world. And we have allowed it to become the dominant force in our life. But it's not qualified to do the job. And that's why we find ourselves in turmoil. That's why we find ourselves anxious and in need. That's why we find ourselves angry with ourselves, angry with others. That's why we feel alone at times. But when napsha self is in its harmony and allowing Ruach, our higher self, our true self, to be the active force in our life, now we are open to this living water. This fount of the water of life has opened and is flowing through us. Eric Butterworth calls it being in the flow of life. Charles Fillmore teaches us about substance. And is not this water of life the substance? Think back to Genesis. It was the waters of the deep. And there was darkness and there was voidness except for this substance, this water. Substance means sub is under, stance to stand. So substance is what stands under. And it is this water of life that flows continually to and through us. That is the substance. There is nowhere that we can go where this substance is not. For everything in our experience is this substance. There is not a thing in this world that is not of this same substance, this water of life. This has value to me as I walk through my daily life. And I ask the question, this inquiry from last week's message, who am I? Well, I am not this napsha self that separates itself from all that is. I am Ruach, who breathes, who is in harmony with the flow of life and opens me to the fount of the living water, this water of life that continually flows through me. This is who I am. So as you continue, I invite you to continue this inquiry. Who am I? Especially when you find yourself in the midst of a turmoil of a thought pattern or an emotional pattern that has been with you probably since childhood. Who am I? I am not this napsha separated self with a small s. I am my true self. I am Ruach. I am this fount of living water, the water of life flowing through me now and always. I release the plug that is my napsha, that is blocking this flow of life through me now. This is our practice and exercise. And I don't ask you to take my word for it, but I do invite you to give it a try for yourself. Noticing when the font of the water of life, this fountain, has been plugged up, and noticing it, and in repeating the inquiry or pulling out your favorite affirmation that's ready in your pocket, affirming your truth, affirming that I am not my napsha self, I am Ruah, and this Ruah is the active part of my life, and napsha is its servant, and I am in harmony with it now. And notice, through this inquiry, the feeling that comes over you, an openness as opposed to a shut off, a tense, a congestion. And contrast this with the flow of the water of life. I thank you for your attention, and I invite you to try it out for yourself. Please do not take my word for it, because it works if you work it. Let us go in prayer together. The prayer for protection, written by James Dillett Freeman. And the first line of it, the light of God surrounds us. Is not this light of God, this flow of the water of life? It surrounds us and moves through us constantly. And the last line of the prayer, wherever I am, God is. Because there is nowhere that we can go where God isn't. God is the very substance, that which stands below everything. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe. So let us go in prayer. The prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever I am, God is. Thank you.